everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, more developments in the Activision Blizzard, I was going to say scandal, but it's not. Overall deal. It's a big talking point, which usually in the gaming industry means a bit of a scandal. In this regard, though, we have Microsoft acquiring Activision, all the different IPs, all the different brands, companies, developers, everything else that was as part of that deal, and the way that stuff is now rolling out, all the different legalities of it, whether or not the deal itself is actually going to be able to go through in a legal sense. It's meant to close halfway through 2023, and as things keep being talked about, different members of Microsoft keep being asked about the realities of what's happening, i.e., is Call of Duty going to be exclusive to Xbox going forward? There are various talking points that have come out of that. One of the most recent is Microsoft's Brad Smith talking to CNBC about the Activision Blizzard deal, confirming that exclusivity isn't something they're interested in long term. In fact, he actually mentions the idea of Call of Duty coming to Switch, though he doesn't name Switch specifically. He says other platforms, providing the deal does go through in 2023. To quote Smith, one of the things we're being very clear about as we move forward with the regulatory review of this acquisition is that great titles like Call of Duty from Activision Blizzard today will continue to be available on the Sony PlayStation. We'd like to bring it to Nintendo devices. We'd like to bring the other popular titles that Activision has and ensure that they continue to be available on PlayStation and that they become available on Nintendo. So whether or not they're waiting, to me, I think they're maybe waiting for the next iteration of the Switch to be able to have something that has the hardware kick to be able to do Call of Duty proper when it lands. But what do you think of that? What do you think of them, doubling down very much? Phil Spencer's saying it, Brad Smith's now saying it. It's definitely not leaving PlayStation overall, and it will be coming to Nintendo as well.
It's the why that I'm the most interested in here, Scott Helfer, because, originally, like you kind of alluded to there, Phil Spencer came out and he said that we're going to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation up until our existing agreements kind of run out. But this time, the clarification is that they're going to honor those existing agreements, but then just keep it on, even beyond that. It's going to stay on PlayStation, it's going to stay multi-platform, like you mentioned. But the why of it is interesting, and why this kind of change in language has come across, because the last thing I read on this before this all came out was that the regulators that he mentions there actually singled out Call of Duty as a kind of topic of concern, because obviously there's a lot of kind of laws and regulations against buying a company of this magnitude, whether it goes against fair play laws and stuff like that. And one of the things that was mentioned was whether or not Call of Duty would just completely change the entire industry if it went exclusive. So with that in mind, I kind of see this maybe as a preemptive strike. He even mentions there, as they're working with the regulators, as they're working to get this deal pushed through, I think that was maybe a source of contention to the deal potentially falling through, and they've kind of just held up their hands and gone, look, no, we don't plan on making this exclusive. It's still going to be available on Sony's platforms, just to make sure that isn't the thing that suddenly makes this entire deal fall apart.
It is fascinating watching them sort of tap dance around the laser beams, because it is different to the way that all the Bethesda stuff went down. Obviously, they did the same, sort of dance around. We're going to not really pin stuff down for a few months, but they are being asked this all the time. The Bethesda deal was more cut and dry in regards to it going through legally, whereas this, like you said, has all those contentions of it potentially, giving them too much of a monopolization on the industry itself, on market share, on all these different things that would get in the way of them, being able to finalize the deal. So they're dancing around a lot of stuff right now. It's strange because on the one hand, obviously Call of Duty is massively popular. There's a huge install base on PlayStation. There's been exclusive content on PlayStation for years. So you might as well just keep monetizing that. Like, you're just stepping in as part of the revenue stream, and all of a sudden it starts going to you. At the same time, I think that the way that they're wording this lines up with everything that we've covered so far, where there'll be a version of Call of Duty on PlayStation. There'll be a version of Call of Duty on Nintendo Switch, but the definitive edition will be on Xbox. And I don't mean a premium pre-order version. I just mean whatever the full version is will be part of Game Pass. I think that's how they do it. This also would mean that an Xbox logo would appear on a Nintendo system for the first time, kind of like how the PlayStation Studios logo was in front of MLB The Show when it finally went to Xbox. And maybe that's their play as well. They're just reminding people that, hey, by the way, this is an Xbox product now, and if you were over on on Xbox, you would actually be able to have this as part of Game Pass or whatever.
Totally, and I mean, when it comes to Xbox owning Call of Duty, it's a win-win whether they have it exclusive or whether they're forced to keep it multi-platform. I mean, it was just announced the other day, Activision Blizzard did one of their, financial investor calls, and they made over $5 billion in the last year alone just on microtransactions.
And
they only have It is all of those tracer bullets. That's that Warzone integration, you know what I mean? So there's so much money to be made by keeping it multi-platform. So I don't think they're going to be hurting either way. But yeah, I do exactly think what you just said there as well, when it comes to they might have to make this franchise multi-platform, but there are so many ways for them to say, but you should play it on Xbox. Game Pass being the biggie. You know, if you have the next Call of Duty being day one Game Pass, like that's just going to steal some of Sony's market share anyway and make sure that players go to Xbox first, or, you know, the majority of Call of Duty's players come to Xbox. And I think they've got a lot of aces up their sleeve like that will mean that even if they keep it multi-platform, obviously the focus of Call of Duty is going to shift heavily towards Xbox, and they're going to pitch the Xbox as being the best place for this franchise if you're a fan.
Well, yeah, and obviously they have all the infrastructure stuff with Xbox Live, because that's the thing. I don't really buy, I mean, obviously it's on the current hardware, but a Call of Duty running on Switch, like the nearest comparison is maybe the Call of Duty that appeared on Vita, which was fine. It was playable enough. You could hold the trigger and you could shoot some dudes in the face, and it was fine enough, but it was far from the ideal way to play that game. And some of that came down to the control scheme, and some of it just came down to the general performance of it. But I feel like it's interesting saying here about the, you know, it's coming to Nintendo platforms going forward, because I feel like it would need a hardware refresh to even be able to remotely keep up with the likes of the Xbox infrastructure or the PlayStation infrastructure in terms of online gaming. Like, if you're going to try and maximize the idea of Call of Duty is now on other platforms, it needs to have feature parity with the other systems, and that's obviously something that they then need to completely manage, because if you have this disastrous, you know, Call of Duty appears on Switch, let's say, and it runs like hell, and it's the debut of an Xbox product on that system, it all kind of falls apart.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Scott Silver. There's nothing I'd rather do less than play a modern Call of Duty game on the Nintendo Switch. I can think of very few things I would rather do less than that. I
play
think
Ori in the Blind Forest? I don't know.
That's definitely up there, which you could do on Switch as well. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I feel like they're just saying this is a promise that, like you said, you know, in the future, maybe if we can get some kind of like workaround, or if Nintendo releases another version of the Switch and we can make it work, they're going to be on that. It's going to be on that machine and that platform in some form. But I don't know what form is that going to take. Is it going to be like a Call of Duty mobile? Is it going to be an incredibly downscaled version of Warzone with terrible textures and fewer players? I don't know.
I'll tell you another thing as well, as a wider talking point. Do you think that, because, you know, Call of Duty Vanguard didn't land very well. I think it was the worst selling Call of Duty there's been in it. It was about 10 years, or a long time anyway. Black Ops Cold War didn't land very well. Modern Warfare did. That was arguably, for me, the best Call of Duty there's ever been. But the campaign very much took a back seat to how solid the multiplayer was. And now we're getting Modern Warfare 2 this year, or at least in theory we are. What's your general thoughts on the popularity of Call of Duty right now? Like, we're talking around it as if it is this massive dead cert that it's going to bring everybody in, and oh my God, and whatever. But I also wonder if there was a conversation around the fact that it's been going for, you know, it's been over 20 years now, and I wonder if the Call of Duty IP, considering the last 2 years have been so flat, just what are your thoughts on that, whether or not this is this dead cert like it used to be?
I think it's a dead set. I'm never going to bet against Call of Duty, Scott, because people were asking me this question like
we say it every
10 years ago. Like literally a decade ago, at the start of the then next generation, the PS4 era, when Ghost was coming out, and Ghost didn't sell very well. You know,
it's the spawns, man. It's the spawn campers. They're everywhere.
We were saying the exact same thing. We were like, maybe this is finally time for Call of Duty to go down, but they've always found a way to reinvent themselves. And I think I might be more inclined to agree with that line of thinking if it wasn't for Warzone doing so well. You know, I've dropped off Warzone since they released the new map. Not that the map is bad.
After how long, though? How long were you there?
I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hours, over a year of pandemic time. But that's not the point. The point is it's still going strong. You know, the point is it's still making them loads and loads of money. But I just think change will come because they're going to Microsoft, and because the path that they were on was just so unsustainable. You know, they couldn't keep pumping out games on an annual basis alongside Warzone. So I feel like, you know, by Microsoft coming in, we're going to see change anyway. We're going to see creative change. We might see Call of Duty be taken off the annualized cycle, and hopefully that gives it the shot in the arm that it might need to kind of get out of this wobbly period it's in, because it's only wobbling a touch. It's still making billions and billions of dollars a year, and I think all it needs is for Microsoft to take a look at the studios, make sure they're healthy and up and running, make sure they have the time and resources to make quality games, make sure they're not crunched to death to get Warzone content out alongside a new campaign and multiplayer and zombies. And then hopefully that will right the ship that, like you said, is kind of a little bit wobbly at the moment. So, but I have full faith in that, to be fair.
I do think that there is a pristine core to Call of Duty. It's why I buy them every single year and play a hell of a lot of them. Modern Warfare is the most that I played a COD in about 10 years, even though I do pick up every single one of them. I think that it's just going to be that interesting dissemination of how do you make it so people always think of Xbox alongside Call of Duty, or is it just going to be like Minecraft? Minecraft is mentioned in this overall interview in regards to, look, they bought Minecraft, they kept it on multiple platforms, and that's just the way that things went. And a lot of analysts over time have always pointed at Minecraft and just said, well, you could have locked this down and you could have made a hell of a lot more money by forcing people over to Xbox. And that's kind of in a whole other conversation as to whether or not they should have done that or not. But that's the interesting comparison in regards to Call of Duty going forward, whether it is just another Minecraft and they just wanted the revenue, or whether they do want to use it to fold back into Game Pass overall. I think the amount of money they spent means that they'll have to do something like that. But it's interesting that they're out there saying, look, it'll be on PlayStation, it'll be on Nintendo, and then it's just a case of keeping an eye on them to see what version or whatever stripped down slice of Call of Duty ends up on those platforms to still push you back to Xbox.
Scott,
yes, go on.
Sorry, just one more thing. I just want to say that I'm convinced that I don't know anything anymore because, we're living in like a completely modern world where the rules don't apply. Sony bought Bungie last week or the week before, and I was like, well, that means we're going to have future Bungie games that are exclusive. And then Sony were like, they're not going to be exclusive. We're keeping them multi-platform. When Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, I thought, well, there we go. Call of Duty is going to be exclusive. Now they're saying, no, it's going to stay multi-platform. I don't know how these console makers' minds work anymore, Scott. It's freaking me out.
I think it is just base revenue. I think it's just general brand association, like I said, it's brand association, it's turning heads, it's getting people associating a certain game, a certain franchise, a certain amount of time spent in a franchise with a certain console manufacturer, and hopefully the optics of that result in, sector domination over time. But yeah, it's very interesting, and I think that obviously everything's on the table, and the Bethesda stuff is just looming in the background because they have made Bethesda stuff exclusive, and they initially said that it wouldn't be. So it's like there is all that stuff to factor in as well. But let us know what you think down in the comments below of the idea of Call of Duty eventually coming to Nintendo and the idea that it won't be exclusive just to Xbox going forward. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.